Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. This video is part of our series interviewing founders that are building on Solana. And today we have with us Lucas, the founder and CEO of Jito Labs.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. I've been following Jito for a long time. Been using it since I think summer of 2023 was when I first deposited. So
Nice.
felt like late in the game at the time, but suddenly, we're coming up on 2 years now. Um, and I've got a lot of questions about how you came to be building on Solana, how you came to build Jito, and also how it came to be the largest protocol by TVL on Jito. Because for people who aren't familiar, Jito is it's a liquid staking platform, but it has over $2.5 billion of TVL last time I checked, which is the largest on Solana. But I'll let you share all of that. So uh, why don't you introduce yourself?
I started Jito with my co-founder in probably mid 2021, and at the time was working in robotics and like sensor suites for robots, and had always been interested in crypto. I think my crypto background started in 2017, kind of towards the end of that cycle, and just fell down the rabbit hole like most people do. And kind of worked my day job and had a few startups in San Francisco, and then would kind of research crypto and blockchain technology at night. And I started doing some MEV, which for those that don't know, it's basically like high frequency trading on Ethereum. Kind of dabbled in that a little bit, and that was kind of another rabbit hole that I fell down very deep into, and I haven't come out since. So, yeah, leave my startup at 7 p.m. and then go into coding mode in my cave and stay there till 2 or 3 in the morning working on the spot. So that was learned a lot there, and I put that on the side because it was staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning is not super sustainable for sure. So put that to the side for a bit, and there's kind of that part that was just itching at me to go back to that. So in early 2021, I discovered Solana. I did one of the first Solana hackathons. I think it was the Solana Ignition hackathon, and worked a lot with Armani on Anchor, which was like super new and no one had really uh, heard of it at the time. And I just like, okay, I got to quit my job. What am I going to do on Solana? And ended up kind of taking some of my MEV background on Ethereum and the computer science and engineering stuff that I was doing at my previous job, and decided to start Jito and focused on building not only MEV infrastructure on Solana, but also the liquid staking protocol and a lot of other things that we've built since inception.
Yeah, and so what was the rationale behind Solana, and then also behind liquid staking? Because you mentioned how you came to be doing MEV, but
Mm.
why liquid staking?
Yeah. So motivation behind Solana. At the time, I felt like they had a very long-term view on how these technologies would advance, and Anatoly and some of the other founders were also computer engineers, and their technical background really lent into the architecture. And when you start looking in the weeds, it's like, okay, this thing's really advanced. And yeah, the technology is cool, but like, what does that actually unlock? Very fast transactions, low fees, this global financial system that we've all been talking about. And I felt like no one else is really focusing on that at the time. So yeah, that's kind of what pulled me into Solana. Is just like, not only is this cool from a technical angle, but it will also unlock this global permissionless financial system that people have been talking about since kind of the inception of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And participating in the DeFi summer in 2020, 2021, 2022, the fees on Ethereum were just insane. And so Solana really shined, and sub penny transaction fees and all that. So that's like what really pulled me into Solana. And then as far as liquid staking, um, I think that there's what, like, I think it's my numbers might be a little out of date here. I think it's like 70-ish% of Solana is staked. So there's a very, very high stake rate compared to other networks. And at the time, a very small percentage of it was liquid staked. And so we had this theory that there's a large market that's already kind of there, the staking market. The liquid staking market is very small, and the DeFi on Solana is very young at the time. And one of the main benefits of having liquid staking token is being able to not only earn staking yield, but participate in DeFi. So provide liquidity, earn extra yield, very capital efficient. And so we kind of took that as like a sign that we should try to tap into this market. So yeah, we launched Jito Soul in the end of 2022, right before Breakpoint, and grown it to where it is today, roughly I think 40% market share, largest liquid staking token on Solana. One other point here too is that there was a good flywheel for kind of creating this whole Mev software stack, and Mev is all about yield. So those two things played together very nicely together.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just going through the timeline here, um, the earliest I see Jito TVL listed is November 2022. Is that when you guys ended up going live?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
So how was that? Because I imagine that wasn't an easy time to go live as a Solana protocol.
Uh, it was easy until like 2 weeks later. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was super exciting. Like, my co-founders Anna and I started Jito in 2021, like mid 2021. Started making hires very early 2022. Once we got money in the bank from some of our investors, basically built all the kind of the V0 of the technology, all the liquid staking stuff throughout 2022 with like a 4 or 5 person team. Um, 2022 we launched right before Breakpoint, and yeah, we kind of know what happened after that. But spent a lot of time grinding and doubling down on Solana in 2023, and luckily the TVL chars continued to go up and to the right, and we've seen a lot of success with Jito Soul and DeFi, and are starting to see some more success on the institutional side. So today, Jito Soul was listed on OKX. That will unlock a lot more opportunities to use Jito Soul in off-chain places, whether it's like on like trading desk for collateral and things like that.
Got it. And why do you think Jito was able to become the top liquid staking platform on Solana? Because there were others that existed, even if, like you said, that liquid
Yeah.
staking wasn't as common.
Yeah, I would say we there's a few reasons. One is that we had a super small, super focused team, and so we were able to stay laser focused on what we thought the most important things were to build and kind of reinforce the network effects on. And we were one of the we were set up very well from like a financial standpoint. We raised another round right before the bear market in 2022 and 2023. So that kind of allowed us to continue growing and not have to worry about kind of where the next paycheck's going to come from. And yeah, I would just say like hiring the right people is super important too. So hiring the right people on the engineering side to build what we need, to hiring the correct ops and BD people that really help think about like how do we there's at the time there wasn't that many liquid staking tokens, and I think Lido left Solana probably like end of 2022, so that opened up a big kind of gap in the market because at the time, at one point they were the largest or second largest liquid staking token on Solana, and so that kind of gave us an opportunity. And um, having the right people, we were kind of able to differentiate ourselves and really kind of drive that wedge between us and the competition.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. No, I remember using it first in 2023 as I got back into Solana, in part because of the combination of the MEV and and liquid staking yield together, and also you guys did have points program at the time, which I thought was executed very well. I was just checking.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
rank 5 on your leaderboard for referrals.
Oh,
Yeah, so
nice.
I had
Let's go.
not to not to pat myself in the back. I had almost 300 referrals.
Yeah.
So that
Awesome.
small benefit of having a YouTube channel. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I think that was executed pretty well from like the points program. From there's a lot of engineering work in it, but there's wanted to do a very quick turn and not kind of tease it out for longer than it needed to be running. So I think that was points programs were the rave kind of back then and into let's say early 20, I guess until like maybe mid earlier 2024. So yeah, that was kind of a big helper there for
yeah,
sure.
I think they got a little bit saturated, and then, well, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, right? But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people saw how, in part, how well it worked for you guys, and then tried to replicate it. But again, that's a different story. Yeah. So, anyways, on Jito and liquid staking, for people who are watching this video and maybe they've liquid staked, maybe not, why is it such a powerful primitive to have the liquid staking
Mhm.
tokens, and what are some of the things that people could actually use it for?
Yeah. So I'll back up a second and like talk about staking and liquid staking and how that works. So I guess a 30 or 60-second blurb. So Solana is a proof of stake network. It gets security by people staking assets to validators. And so typically when you stake, you are taking your Solana and you are kind of like locking it up on a validator. And so you are giving them the power to produce blocks and also vote on how the blocks are chained together. So making sure they're chained together in the right way and everything. And so while you're staking, you are earning yield. And this yield's a combination of the kind of just inflation from the network. So the network's constantly emitting and creating new tokens and giving those to stakers to increase the amount of stake on the network. And then something else that Jito introduces this concept of like tips and this value flowing to stakers through transaction fees. And so you're staking, you're earning inflation and the transaction fees, which are a part of the from the activity on the network. So people sending transactions. And that yield, it varies. It's roughly, anywhere from 7% to 12%, depending on a few factors. And while you're staking, that SOL is locked up. So you can actually use it. It's kind of stuck there. And so um, I think it was either Lido or Rocket Pool created liquid staking on Ethereum. It works very similar on Solana. So what it is you take your Solana and you deposit it into a liquid staking pool or liquid staking protocol, and that protocol mints you a new token. In our case, it's Jito Sol, and it gives it back to you. And the pool will take that SOL that you stuck on it and delegate it to a wide number of validators. So today, Jito Sol is roughly 200 validators. So you know put on if you put 200 SOL into the pool, kind of have one SOL on every validator. So you're spreading it out, and so that SOL is basically a receipt token. So I can go back to that pool later, and I have my receipt token Jito Sol. I can give it back to the pool. It gives me back my original amount that I put in, plus any inflation and essentially rewards that have accrued from that SOL being staked. So you have this basically token Jito SOL, which represents the SOL in the pool plus the yield. And so you can think of it like tokenized yield. So basically, you can take that Jito SOL, and there's a wide variety of DeFi protocols in Solana. The amount that's popped up over the past year or two is just insane. So one that's pretty popular, I think it's the largest liquidity, the largest TVL for Jito Sol, I think, is on Camino. So Camino is kind of uh, a active like liquidity provider. So basically, you can take your Jito Sol, put it in there, and you are helping provide liquidity on Jito Sol for people to make trades in and out of Jito Sol, and you're earning trading fees from that. So you have this yield plus trading fees. You can go do borrow or lend with it, so you can earn some extra yield from that. If you're an institution, you can use it as collateral. So if you have a lot of SOL, then you can go stick it onto some platform that supports collateral and use it there, and you're using Solana plus the extra staking yield. So the main benefit is being able to use it in DeFi and earn additional yield on top of the staking yield without being locked up. There's a few other benefits as well, like you get a wide variety of validators. You don't need to trust the validator that it's being staked to. Jito Sol has a Sol system called StakeNet that kind of manages where the Sol is being delegated to, so it's always being delegated to the best validator.
Awesome. And then you mentioned institutions a couple times. How do you see what's the end game for liquid staking as far as institutions and beyond?
Yeah. So yeah, I think the being able to use it in collateral and some of these platforms, whether it's like a Falcon X or some of the other kind of trading desk, I think is very valuable. So you can, there are a lot of people that will like long Sol short ETH or do other trades, and being able to do that with a yield bearing asset, Jito Sol, is just strictly better than using Sol. So I think there's a lot of things that you can do there. Obviously, the Solana ETF is a pretty big narrative right now. So being able to explore how do you include Jito Sol into an ETF and what does that look like is also very interesting. Yeah, I think there are a lot of good tailwinds right now coming from this new administration, um, and the SEC and the CFTC, and there's a lot more willingness to engage with protocols and companies in the space. So that's something that we're trying to kind of engage more in and lower the barrier for not only new companies but also some of these institutions to get access to Jito Sol and other digital assets.
Awesome. So, changing topic a little bit. In addition to what I do with this channel, I also work for DeFi Llama. So I'm always talking about Onchain Metrics
Nice.
and looking at Onchain Metrics. What do you, as the co-founder of Jito Labs, track for metrics on Jito?
Yeah. So TVL is the big one that we look at, and um, the other one is the amount of tips per day from the Mev software, which we haven't really dove into a lot, but there's Jito tips are generating roughly 50% of Solana's transaction fees. So I go on DeFi Llama a lot and look at the fee dashboard to see kind of how we're doing and how tips are flowing. Um, and then, yeah, I would say there's a bunch of other metrics that we look at, not only at TVL, but I would say TVL is not necessarily the best network effect. Um, so we look at like what is what's the depth of Jito Sol on chain. So if I place a $1 million sell from Jito Sol to Sol, what is the price impact of that? And constantly like pulling that and graphing that, and then the $10 million sell and $20 million sell, and how does it compare to other LSTs? What percentage of Jito Sol is used in DeFi, and what programs is it in? That can help a lot with incentives. So yeah, I would say like really thinking like what are the network effects of Jito Sol? I think a lot of it is in DeFi, and the liquidity is a major piece of it, and monitoring that, both on like public dashboards and then also some internal tooling that Paul at the Jito Foundation has built.
Awesome. That's actually so a lot of stuff you mentioned as far as network effects and liquidity. Um, it makes total sense, although I hadn't looked at it that way myself before. It definitely gives me some ideas for looking at other assets as well. Yeah, so I guess final question to wrap things up is, if you were not working on Jito, what would you be working on right now?
Oh, I was really close to. There's probably two things that come to mind. One is I worked on construction robots for a bit, so self-driving bulldozers and excavators, and I learned a lot through
Sweet.
that. So for a while, yeah, it's cool. I was kind of like a. It's like I think it's every kid's dream or every boy's dream to like drive heavy machinery. So being able to use my coding skills to like control this thing and figure out how it works was pretty cool. But yeah, for a while, and then yeah, since growing up, I've always loved cutting grass. It sounds so weird, but there's just something therapeutic about it. If you it's you get out in the sun, cutting grass, making stripes, and so for a while in between jobs, I was thinking about starting an autonomous lawnmower company. So I went pretty far down that rabbit hole. Um, and then the other one would be probably working in defense somewhere like Andrew
Hmm.
on some like robotics or autonomous systems.
First,
Because yeah, Palmer Luckey's a character and they're killing it.
yeah, they really are. First off, love it. And the grass thing, I totally get. At my parents' farms, I drive the tractor to cut the grass sometimes, and it's fun,
Oh
especially with the
yeah,
noise canceling
yeah,
headphones on. You just it's fun to get a nice tan. I'd actually not, sounds like not as far down the rabbit hole as you, since I don't have a robotics background. I had gone down that background as well, gone down that rabbit hole of autonomous cutting companies, because it's going to
yeah.
happen at some point. Um,
Hmm.
it's absolutely going to happen, especially if you just walk around. I don't know where you live, but I walk around where I live and I see how many people are spending money on having their lawns cut this time of year, and you just see the uh, that like the demand in money is there, and you could cut the cost of labor astronomically. But that's a whole different conversation. So you were a
Yeah,
robotics guy mostly.
yeah. So yeah, I started out doing firmware and embedded systems. So I worked at Tesla as an intern. Worked a lot on the Model X, on the Falcon Wing doors and the seats, and basically anything that like moves or lights up on the Model X. I might have some code running in there, and then got into kind of robotics and self-driving, and then worked on lidar for a bit for like a little less than a year, uh, kind of working on firmware for lidar. So yeah, I was doing a lot of that, and then I feel like now I just work on like, I guess, kind of Solana is kind of robotics in some weird sense that like there's a lot of the same coding patterns, and you want to make sure you're in robots. If in robots, if you have a bug, then like someone might get hurt. On Solana, if you have a bug, then like people might lose a lot of money. So there's still that like very high. Um, there's a high caliber for like the software and the systems that you build.
Yeah. Do you have actually? I wasn't going to ask this as a question, but it did occur to me. Do you ever does it ever keep you up at night that you have several $billion deposited in a protocol, or are the
Yeah.
I mean, I know you guys have best in class smart contracts and all the safeguards and everything, but like is that pressure ever something that you think about?
Yeah, I would say on the there's a few different levels of pressure. One, the Solana stake pool, there's definitely a lot of TVL in it, but we didn't actually write that code. Solana Labs wrote the stake pool
Oh,
code
okay.
for that. Basically, every stake pool except for Marinade and Lido uses. So, like all the Sanctum LSTs, they might have like a little bit of custom code, but pretty sure most of the code there is written by Solana Labs. Jito Sol, basically every LST just uses the same code. So that code's been audited 9 times by 6 parties. So that one's pretty good. Restaking code is something I wrote most of. That one definitely, that's got like 200 and something million in there. That one's a little scary. The main one is like the validator client. So the validator client that we built is running on like roughly 90% of stake, or somewhere around there. And so that one's much scarier. Because yeah, if there's like a bug in there, then the network could be impacted. So
Got it.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure you guys have done everything that you need to do as far as that. I wasn't trying to sort of insinuate anything there.
No,
I was something I thought about before, and I'm like, man, that
it's a
would be
good
a
question.
lot of pressure for me, if I ever had a protocol that
Yeah.
had much money deposited in it. Anyways,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you have a good team reviewing you and you do audits and have a good security team and bug bounty program and uh, you try to do everything you can to kind of make sure that nothing bad happens, or if something bad happens, you can kind of mitigate
hmm,
the potential damage from it. So, um, yeah, something we take pretty seriously.
no, that makes sense. Yeah, because I mean, I get stressed just having the DeFi Llama Twitter account on my computer where I triple check every time I
Oh
post
yeah.
anything. That I'm like, okay, am I on my personal account or or not? Because that would be a disaster. Um, but it's really been awesome to have you on. I really enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot personally. Any final words you want to share, or where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter under Buffalo, and I would say now's a great time to be building on Solana. There's the network is getting faster at a rate faster than basically any other network, and there's a lot of the best builders are coming over. So definitely recommend checking it out. It's not that hard, and yeah, come join us on Solana.
Awesome, love it. Thanks everyone for watching. Link to Lucas's Twitter down in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe.